I have for comment today, March 7th, 2009, an important article entitled "Begging for Bailout, GM Gets an Easy Ride. MP is not brave enough to ask tough questions." The editorial by Don Martin. What is utterly amazing about this editorial, which deals with a parliamentary committee hearing where General Motors asked for $90 from every man, woman, and child, a loan of $90 per person, which amounts to $3 billion worth of taxpayers' money to bail out General Motors. Don Martin can't understand how all the members of Parliament gave General Motors such an easy ride. He finds it impossible to believe that they would not ask any tough questions. Well, nobody asked any tough questions about $58 billion for Canadian banks. And no one's going to ask any tough questions for Chrysler or General Motors or any central Canadian manufacturer. But a Western Canadian should ask why. And the answer is very simple. All four political parties who want to be anything or get anywhere in Canada and to be a majority have to placate the voters of Ontario, where these manufacturers have their subsidized, non-productive widget factories. They are in effect factories that produce nothing of any real value that couldn't be bought better, quicker, and cheaper somewhere else. So what about the whole effect on our production from Western Canada, the fishery, the forestry, and the mining, the agriculture, the petroleum, the natural gas, the fresh water that we actually have in Western Canada, the real value? Why is there absolutely no possible bailout for West Coast fishermen, or the logging industry, or the agricultural industry, no matter how bad it gets? Why is it that there would be very tough questions and no money for any Western Canadian industry? Well, it's very simple, and the reason is the same. GM and Chrysler, that have their voter base in Ontario, are going to get whatever they want, and no one's going to ask any tough questions. They got $3 billion. Chrysler will get $1 billion to keep those jobs in central Canada and to keep those voters happy, because 301 seats in the House of Commons have 103 from Ontario. And that's the bottom line. And it's very interesting that Don Martin is questioning why that happens, and he won't come to the conclusion that is so obvious. And being a Western Canadian, he knows the answer to that question. It's the answer I just gave you. It's the fact that Ottawa, in it being as it is, preoccupied with the interests of Ontario and Quebec, will always be gentle and tolerant and nice to every Western Canadian when they look down upon us and say it's our duty to keep the country together by keeping Ontario in jobs. And until we realize that, our tax dollars will go to the organized crime of Ottawa for the simple purpose of buying off the voters of Ontario and Quebec. General Motors, Chrysler, Ford, where do you think they have their assembly plants? Where do you think they cannot sell those cars? It's all in Ontario, and that's where it's going to stay until Western Canada realizes we have a better future on our own, and a smaller country closer to the people governed in Western Canada would be way better at protecting our interests than Ottawa will ever be. Nobody's going to ask tough questions about Chrysler, Ford, or General Motors as long as Ottawa is Ottawa, and as long as those plants remain in Ontario. So let's look about the reality of the situation. Let's face that reality, and let's do something about it in building a new nation of Western Canada, rather than shoveling our valuable resource dollars down the endless rat hole of central Canada, where they'll never come back. General Motors will collapse. Chrysler will collapse. And the end result will be that all those tax dollars that could have paid for our pensions, our schools, our roads, and our other needed facilities will be gone to keep bankrupt industries in central Canada pretending to be afloat for a little longer. Free the West.